Hey everybody, my name is Aaron and I quit my job to start a startup. It's called Hihat and it makes being a fan into a game. I post new video blogs about my progress every Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe. So this week I'm going to talk about I'm finally biting the bullet and getting ready to launch. So, it's finally happening, but I didn't know exactly how I would make the decision of when I would launch when I first started, and I didn't really come to a solid conclusion until last week when I finally decided to sit down and basically make a spreadsheet of all the features that I was thinking about doing and all the features that I already had, and try to separate them out based on what's in the launch version, what's in version 2, and what's in version 3. And doing this in a spreadsheet form, because I guess that's how my brain works, sort of forced me to consider how badly do I need certain things. And for some features, I actually realized that I need them sooner rather than later because without them, there's nothing for players to look forward to for earning their points. And for some other features that I thought might be super necessary, I realized that I don't really need them right away. So, for instance, one of the original things I was selling this whole thing on was the ability for people to get VIP backstage access or meet and greet with bands. And I realized pretty early on that logistically that was a pretty tough thing to pull off. It's probably harder than everything else I'm doing with the app. And I was thinking about trying to make that available to people as something to work towards, and then just sort of come to accept the fact that by the time people get enough points to do those things, it will have been like 6 months, and then by then I will have figured out how to pull it off. But rather than do that in order just to prove out whether or not people want to earn points to buy stuff, I figured a much easier way to manage that is to add simple virtual goods type things that you can get within the app, like stickers that you can use in chat or filters that you can put over your profile photo that have the band's logo or something like that. So those are actually some of the last features that I'm going to build before I launch this thing. And once I'm done building all the features, I still have to go through a phase of bug fixing because I know the app's not perfect, and also setting up a production environment, getting my account set up with my hosting provider so I can pay money and get better service, that kind of good stuff. But just to set expectations, for most startups, even most startups that end up being successful, launch is really just the beginning. So once you launch the product, you might get just a few users and you have to start collecting feedback and understanding why people who like the app, and slightly less important, understanding why people who don't like the app don't like the app. And maybe I'll talk more about that when it's actually happening. But the it used to be like in the 90s when people were starting companies with millions of dollars and doing these big launches with launch parties. The public perception was like once you launched it, you'd be super successful and lots of people would use it and stuff like that. But that's really not the case. For the vast majority of startups that had big launches, they didn't really attract any users, and then they failed because they spent all their money on their big launch and having a big party with a celebrity or whatever. So the preferred way to do it is launch small, get a few dedicated users, listen to what they have to say. And one of the best things I heard, and I don't know exactly the origin of this, but the quote was, "If you're not embarrassed by your product when you launched, then you waited too long to launch." So it makes me feel a little better that now that I finally decided to launch and I'm looking at the product for its warts and all. I'm going to accept the fact that it's not perfect and hope that at least a few people will like it enough to give me some feedback about what they want to see more of. But, starting today or starting a few days ago, it's T minus however long it takes to get all these loose ends tied up, and then you'll see it on the App Store. Exciting. Well, that's it for this week. Remember, I post new videos every Wednesday. Make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next week.